Welcome, friends! Today we're gonna talk about Pokémon Unite. So I played this game back when it first came out, and wasn't really all that impressed by it, but here recently, I decided to give it another go. I played the ranked solo ladder all the way up to Master Rank, and to be honest, it really hasn't changed all that much. Now when I first reinstalled the game, I couldn't access the account that I had already had. For whatever reason, it wasn't linked to my Nintendo account, and the recovery process for old accounts is very much SOL. So if you've uninstalled the game without quote-unquote linking your account, then you may never be able to get back into it. But with that aside, I created a new account, and this game is just overflowing with events, if you can call them that, which are just little missions for you to check off while playing whichever mode. Feel like I spent way more time clicking on rewards than actually even playing matches. I also haven't spent a single dollar, although I almost did. I actually tried to. Just about bought an $8 deal, but then the in-game shop reroutes you to the Nintendo eShop, to which the Nintendo eShop then gives you a QR code to scan together with your purchase for you to go and do some other steps somewhere else. And it's just not worth all that to me. I can't be bothered like that just to buy an extra character or skin in this game. So then as a free player, you've got a lot of stuff that you need to acquire or buy before you're really ready to play. You've got items that you need to buy, which you can buy with the in-game currency you earn for playing, but they also just give you a bunch of them for free as rewards to missions. You'll also unlock a handful of playable characters that they call licenses for free as well. In the 1 or so week that I played this game, I earned enough coins to buy 2 additional licenses for characters of my own choice. So that's cool. Now something that was a huge turnoff for me back when this game originally launched was how items have levels, and you have to buy upgrade materials to upgrade them. Each Pokémon can equip up to 3 items at a time, and then each individual item can be upgraded to level 30, and it takes quite a lot to get one there, let alone 3. As a free player back at launch, you pretty much never had any max level gear, and it was quite expensive to max that stuff out. And then the way that the items are would leave you to really only play the roles that you had items leveled up for. And it's still very much like that. But now, they give new players a couple of these tickets that can max out the level on items. And with the ludicrous number of events that they got going on, I was very easily able to max out a 3rd item. But after gearing up, I'm now sort of locked into that role, unless I want to play on a different role with weak items. The abilities on these items are quite substantial, especially because a lot of them are percent-based. It also doesn't appear that the full effect of items is even detailed on the in-game descriptions of them, because the wiki shows additional effects and even whole other stats that aren't listed in-game. So I don't know if the wiki is wrong or what that situation is, but in any case, I can't stand that in games. You should never have to go to an external source to know what a thing does in a game. League of Legends is especially bad about that. Items and abilities often have abbreviated descriptions, and in a lot of cases, in order to get the specific information, you have to go to an external site. But why is it like that? Why can't you just tell me in the description that this item gives plus or minus whatever percent? Why can't it just say that right here? It makes it hard when you're looking through the cast of characters that you might like to buy, because you have to have the wiki open at the same time. That sounds like a cool ability, but why aren't the numbers here? Is that big damage gonna be flat or scaling? How do I even decide which items to take if I don't even know what my moves actually do? In this game, you got branching move pools, as opposed to other games where you always have the same 4 or so moves and just choose which ones to level up. And when you're planning a build for a character, it would be nice to know what the numbers on these moves are. It's absolutely ridiculous to not have the values of the attacks in their descriptions. But anyhow, items aren't the only gear that you need in order to compete. There's also these coins that you gotta collect now, which each give different stats. And as you can see, you can equip quite a number of them. And of course, you can level these up as well. They come in different rarities, and you put together 3 of a kind in order to rank it up. You'll get a bunch of these for free, but if you want to optimize your stats, then you'll need specific ones. And of course, you gotta get multiples so you can level them up. I would never ever not never spend money on a system like this. I'm just using the best of the ones that I happen to get for free, and this system on its own is why I probably won't stick on Unite for too much longer. It's presented as a competitive game, but it's very pay to win. I guess skins just aren't enough anymore. This coin system sort of reminds me of the old rune pages from League of Legends, which I quite like. I think it's really cool and interesting to be able to modify some simple stats like this. Except in Unite, it's got it with loot boxes and leveling them up. So if you ain't got the good ones, sucks to suck. Better get out that wallet. But after you're all geared up and ready to play, you can't play ranked until you have at least 5 characters unlocked, because you can't pick the same Pokémon on your team twice, which is generally a good idea in team-based games. But it's funny though, you see, because we got 2 Pikachus and lots of Eevees, so it's whatever, I guess. I do like the simplification of roles in this game. They got rather simple names that are easy to digest, like Attacker, Defender, All-Rounder, Support, and Speedster. And just like any other team-based game, you really ought to have a balanced team. Teams without supports or defenders just almost don't even get to play, really. First off, the numbers in this game are way too high. Pikachu at level 1 has over 3000 HP. Why? Could you not balance it out without these absurd numbers? Just my own opinion, but I think the large numbers are there to accentuate the value of leveled up items. I also feel like a lot of the Defender and Supporter Pokémon are largely overtuned. Some of these Defender and Supporter type Pokémon are just unkillable. Well, I suppose that is their entire purpose, right? But it becomes a huge issue in teamfights, because unfortunately, this game largely always boils down to a single fight at the last objective, so you better be ready to play whichever role your team is missing. But if you don't have the items, well, that's really all too bad now, isn't it? I pretty much exclusively only played all the way up to Master, the Pikachu that you start with, and a Lowland Raichu, who is one of the characters I bought with my rewards. And that's largely because I simply don't have any of the other items leveled up. Nor will I be able to do so anytime soon. And there were loads of games that were just free losses because my team was missing a role that I couldn't fill. Well, I did play Defender and Support a few times, but it feels really bad when you don't have strong items. And when I'm in that situation, I have to weigh out if it's better for me to play one of those other roles with the weak items, or just play the role that I'm already geared for. Now when it comes to actually playing a match, controlling your own character feels pretty good and responsive most of the time. You've got some different options you can fiddle around with, but this game is designed to be played with a controller. And there's a mobile version of this game, which uses the touchscreen as the controller. And I think I'll pass on that. But this design comes with a number of issues. First off, the entire game has to be played in screen lock. If there's a way to unlock the screen, please let me know. Now when you die, you can use the right analog stick to look around the map, but all you can do with it while you're alive is to just aim your attacks. But aside from screen lock, this game is played with a built-in aim assist, which will automatically target the corresponding enemy within range, based on which option you pick here. You can target the closest enemy, or the one with the lowest HP, with that either being by percent or by the raw number. And this can be especially frustrating in teamfights, when focusing a particular target means everything, but actually, you're just gonna hit whoever. It also makes defenders really good at actually tanking everything without even trying. Because if they got even a little bit of damage on them already, then everything will just auto-target them. So that's really annoying. But also, just simply the way that defending goals works is really annoying with the way that the auto-targeting thing works. So the way that scoring works in this game is that defeating wild Pokémon grants you XP, but also some points that you carry around, which you can then go and dunk in the enemy goal zone. The more points that you're carrying, the longer that it takes to charge up that dunk. And if you take damage while charging, then it gets cancelled, and you'd have to start that charge all up over again. This whole system is incredibly annoying, and I'll explain why. Now, since there's pretty much always 2 people in a lane, your basic attack and abilities will always auto-target whichever opponent. And you can manually aim skills, but those have cooldowns of course. So you just about can't stop one of the 2 from scoring, because you literally can't hit them. You can't simply click on an enemy or anything like that to attack them. Maybe if you're playing a melee Pokémon, then it's a lot more manageable to try and manipulate the range of your standard attack to attack who you specifically want. But when you're playing a ranged attacker, you've got little chance to actually attack who you want, without doing a whole bunch of gymnastics, like damaging certain opponents with skills first, so that their HP is more or less where it needs to be for you to auto-attack them, or by trying to stand so far away from everyone, so that only the exact enemy you want to hit is the only enemy in your attack range, which is also really hard to do and can be frustrating because the entire game is played in screen lock. And just regular old team fighting or harassing and trading hits kind of sucks, because you either aren't using your full attack range effectively, or you're standing so far away that you can't see. But you also get punished for having too many points in the bag, because it takes like an entire year to charge up that dunk when you got a big score, while smaller scores are basically instantaneous. It just feels so dumb. And also, you defeat wild Pokémon for XP, so you're incentivized to pretty much just kill everything. But then you're often just carrying around way too many points to ever even have a chance at scoring, unless you KO the entire enemy team. But even then, the death timers are so short, they might as well not even exist at all. I'm talking like 5 seconds. It scales a little bit as the game goes on, but the death timers are like non-existent all the way up until the final stretch, where they finally scale up to somewhere about 20 seconds. Most of the time, players are respawning and returning to the same fight that they just died in before anyone can make progress on anything. It's almost to your advantage, actually, to purposefully blow your load and die real quick in a fight, so that you can get right back there fresh and clean up while everyone is low, so that you can actually score or get something in the maybe 10 seconds that you'll have after winning a team fight, but only if you're directly on top of the objective when that happens. If you're even just a few seconds away from a goal or an objective after you win a fight, the enemies will already be back before you can gain anything for it. I've seen lots and lots of team fights at the final objective where players are dying one at a time while others are respawning and jumping back into the action. And sometimes that one team fight in the center of the map actually never ends, lasting the entire 2 minutes of the final stretch. You also get a speed boost while walking up lane on your side of the map. And then at about halfway through the game, a springboard spawns that lets you jump right to just about anywhere on your side of the map. So a player can always get right back to anywhere at any time. There's almost no penalty for deaths in this game. I don't even think the game keeps track of them. And there's almost no reward for killing anyone either, unless you basically kill everyone at the exact same second, and also happen to be directly on top of the objective that you was just fighting for. It's actually impossible to score at all past the halfway point of the game unless the enemy team is just bad. If you're getting scored on after that springboard is up, you're just bad and your team is bad. I mean, I get it. Sometimes you just got what look like bots running around in your game, and they're off farming the jungle for whatever reason past the halfway point, or they're solo dying at an enemy's goal zone, and then what are you gonna do? But that's just a part of the luck in these games. It's crazy how you see players this bad, even in the highest ranks. And that's not a problem that's exclusive to Pokémon Unite either. That's every team-based game, honestly. But anyway, when you stand on your own goal zone, you get a shield and increased health regeneration. So it's fairly easy to 1v2 or even 1v3 sometimes while defending your own goal zone. But there's also nothing stopping an enemy from just running over your goal zone to get you, if they're stronger or have some kind of advantage, or if you're just outnumbered enough. Now there's also a couple of things that shorten the charge time to score, like the final boss that spawns in the center near the end of the game, which we'll get to later. And then there's this mini-boss that spawns up top periodically, which for the team who defeats it, will join you and start marching towards the nearest enemy goal zone. And if it makes it there, it will score some points based on how much health it's got left, but then disables that goal's defender bonus for a period of time, as well as allowing instant scoring on the goal throughout the duration. So while it's really hard to score past the halfway point of the game, you can go and get this guy and score freely, assuming that your team is stronger than theirs, because you'll probably have to fight them for it. But of course, everyone is stupid at objectives. Sometimes they'll actually fight the enemies, but sometimes they try to rush the mini-boss, and the objective will go to whoever gets the last hit on it. So of course if it's low, everyone will be trying to finish it off. It's usually a big scramble, and it's easy enough to steal, but also the boss will continue to attack and focus enemies specifically after he joins you. So stealing it can also allow you to win a fight that you would otherwise lose, and then proceed to flip the entire game on its head. It's kind of like in League of Legends, when your whole team is really behind, and then you get an ace at Dragon. Another mini-boss spawns on the bottom side of the map as well, and this one will randomly be one of 3 different ones, which each give a different buff that lasts for 90 seconds, which makes the already coin-flippy and snowbally game even more volatile. Because at every stage in the game, point values go up. Wild Pokémon give you more points to carry around, but also your carry capacity increases. And then that topside mini-boss also gives instant scoring. But then in the final stretch, which is the last 2 minutes of the game, scored points are worth double. It's kind of like Family Feud, where every round is completely invalidated by the increased value of the next one. And because of all that, every match just feels so haphazard, and it's kind of snowbally, but not really. So you get XP for defeating wild Pokémon, and then you also get passive XP just for existing. But it seems like no matter how hard you farm, you can't barely even get 2 levels ahead of players with 0 farm. So there's almost no point in trying to farm for levels, except for trying to cross certain thresholds in the early game. But the way that passive XP works, everyone's levels will just get balanced out after a couple of minutes anyway. And then all of the items are equipped pre-game, so they're not a part of the in-game progression. So it's really hard to get ahead in terms of power. And getting ahead in points is almost meaningless, because the points are just progressively worth more and more as the game goes on. So you have to score on these goals, which disappear after a certain amount of points have been scored in them, kind of like towers in League of Legends. But you don't win for scoring in the enemy's base. Instead, the game will end after the clock runs out, and whoever has the most points wins. But in the last 2 minutes of the game, called the final stretch, points are all of a sudden worth double, and then that boss spawns in the center, to whichever team defeats it gets a big shield and super quick score charging. And defeating the boss is, of course, simply just whoever gets the last hit on it. Now, about 30% of the time, the stronger team just wins everything all game, and getting the last buff isn't even a contest. But most of the time, none of the rest of the game even matters before this point. These matches are 10 minutes long, and you're mostly just derping around, pretending to compete in a game that doesn't even matter until the last 2 minutes when the real game actually begins. It's really dumb. Something I will say that I quite like about the ranked system in this game is how you earn performance points based on how well you play, which if you earn enough of them can be spent to negate a loss, or even rank you up a peg. And there's also these rank protection cards. You get some of them for free somehow, but they also negate a single loss. And that's nice, because just like any other team-based game, you will eventually get an unplayable match, because someone is trolling, or whatever it is. So climbing in this game actually feels fun, because as a skilled player, you can win 5 in a row and then get an unplayable match, and it doesn't kill your momentum. And as far as I can tell, there isn't any kind of engagement-based matchmaking. But there might actually be bots in the ranked games, because it's crazy how dull some of these players are, even in Master Rank. But you can also tell when a bad player probably isn't a bot, because bots actually show up to objectives. So I played the solo mode enough before trying ranked to know how the bots behave in this game, and I kinda feel like there might be some bots when there aren't enough players online in the late hours. I also had a weird circumstance where I got matched against the same group like 3 or 4 times in a row. But I suppose there can't be that many people in high ranks online so late at night, which is when I tended to play most of my matches. So you want to be a master? Here's the down low on what you should be doing at what times in a match. In the early game, you should be trying to get levels and score when it's safe. There's a lot of idiots that just run straight to the enemy's goal zone at level 2 and die to score something as low as like 4 points, just so that the enemy team can clap back and score like 30. Don't die for 4 points. A small single score like that is meaningless anyway, because you're just gonna score 40 and 50 or even a whole 100 at once later. So just as soon as the game starts, just farm levels. If you're the defender or the support, just hover over your partner and let them farm levels. Different Pokémon have different power spikes at different levels, but most Pokémon have their first power spike at level 5. That's when a lot of them evolve. But wherever your power spike is, that's what you should be playing for. If you happen to kill an enemy in lane, then of course go and score right quick, and then turn right back over to your side of the lane. Junglers or mid-area players should just do a full clear, defeating all of the wild Pokémon on your side of the mid-area, which will get you level 5, and you'll be the first player on your team to do so. And then you'll have the opportunity to gank whichever lane you like. And that's when everyone will all score together at once. If you're playing top or bot lane, you're playing for XP until your mid-area jungler arrives. You fight for the wild Pokémon that appear around your area, to maybe get a level ahead of your opponents and hit that power spike first. Which if you do, then maybe you can just overtake them without your jungler being there. But don't force fights over the enemy's goal zone, especially if it's going to be drawn out, because you're not going to make progress on that. The enemies are going to get shields and healing, and you're just going to get whittled away. Or the enemy jungler is going to pop up and kill you instantly, and then all 3 of the enemies down there are all going to score at once on you. The second power spike for just about everyone is level 9, when you unlock your Unite move. It's a really big deal actually, and if you're playing smart, you can usually unlock it before the mini-bosses spawn, which will allow you to have a huge advantage there if your opponents don't also have level 9 yet. At this point in the game, you'll play for those mini-bosses, and try to take the first goal zones. If you already got the enemy's first goal zone on one side of the map, then go and help to get the other. But someone still needs to hang out around yours. And this is where it's important to have a balanced team, because it would be ideal to have a defender or support there. If you leave this goal zone open, someone will come over there with a big 40 and just about tie up the game in a single shot. So focus on getting those outer goal zones first, and then maybe the second one on top side, but only if you get the Regieleki. There's no point in even going over to a second goal zone halfway in the game, because they're way too easy to defend. Players can just jump to it, and you can't score on it fast enough. And if you do happen to die here, then the death timers are almost just long enough for the enemies to run over and score on you real quick, or take some other objective while you're dead. But what is funny is that sometimes you can respawn and jump back to your goal zone just in time to still defend it, because the death timers are still kind of short. But if you died for absolutely nothing, the rest of the idiots on your team will probably follow suit, and all get picked off or die trying to fight outnumbered. So it all starts with you. Remember that. That's how you win in any team-based game. It starts with you. Every objective, every fight, every feed. It starts with you. And if someone on your team is going off to die in some stupid play, just let them and don't follow them. Because if you die too, it will only get worse. And maybe by you not dying, you could defend, or maybe you could prevent the game from getting any worse. If you're doing well in the mid-game, maybe you got both outer goal zones, and the second one top. Then you would just chill until the final stretch. Don't force that second one on bot side, just let it be. And only get the top one if you got Regieleki. In the final stretch, that boss will spawn in the middle of the map. And of course, it will give a big shield and that super fast scoring. So whoever gets it pretty much wins. Especially because points are worth double in the last 2 minutes. And defeating it also puts points in your bag. So around the last 10 or 15 seconds before that thing spawns, you better be there. You will team fight first, and then get the boss after, because whoever shows themselves first will get jumped on. So you hide somewhere and wait. After that thing spawns, if you still don't see anyone around, know that they are there, or they will be any second. If you got good range moves, use them to check bushes without revealing yourself. Because if someone starts hitting that boss, they will get jumped on, and then you'll have the enemy team as well as the boss hitting you. So just wait. It's a game of chicken, and whoever shows first probably loses. Trying to rush the boss is also usually a bad idea, because it's easy enough to steal it, and whoever gets the last hit on it gets it. Spending all game winning just to risk it on a boss rush coin flip like that is really bad. But that's kind of how it is. Every single game feels like you're just waiting for that coin flip right at the end. And that's the way it was back when the game launched too. Except instead of Rayquaza, it was Zapdos, but it was more or less the same thing. And sometimes you just get players who are just off in their own little world with no idea of what the goal of this game even is. And that really sucks, because you've wasted 8 whole minutes for some guy to think he can go sneak a score while the entire team takes the final boss and wins the game. And that really sucks to suck, because it really does take an entire team on that final play in the final stretch. Most of the time, I feel like I'm just going through the motions, waiting around for that last play at Rayquaza, because nothing else hardly even matters. Sometimes you get it, but sometimes you don't. But sometimes you steal it, or they do. And there goes the battle.